Hello there, post-production Pendragon here with some news. So I'm only an old man and I know little of the ways of YouTube, and it's come to my attention recently that YouTube, the almighty algorithm, it doesn't like when videos have static backgrounds. You know, when your video is just a still image with audio layered over it. When you have videos like that, the algorithm, it doesn't know what to do with you. So to combat that, for these discussion and debrief videos, I'm going to have video game footage playing in the background. The visualizer, it's not enough, but we're going to stay on theme, stay on topic by having the video games I play be related to A Song of Ice and Fire. But that's it, that's all. Now let's get to the intro of the actual video. The wait for the winds of winter. My thoughts on why it's taking so long, those rumors that it's secretly finished, and will the series ever be done? Before we get into it, the business. Consider supporting this channel on Patreon or becoming a channel member. Memberships go for as little as $1. I plan on doing a lot more of these discussion videos and debriefs of my older content. Patreon and channel members will get early access to these videos. The same goes for my character deep dives and theory videos. You'll even get to see first drafts of videos and even get to see sneak peeks of the script. As we go forward, there will be other kinds of content that will be exclusive to Patreon and channel members. So consider lending your support, and thank you to those that do. And also thank you for subscribing, liking, and turning on that bell. And now that that's done, let's get into it. It's been 11 years, 11 months, and 18 days since A Dance with Dragons was published. The adaptation of A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, came and went, and now we're on the second season of the prequel show, House of the Dragon. And still, there's no Winds of Winter. Where is the book? I would like the book. I feel like Miranda Priestley from The Devil Wears Prada. You know, I want to make someone run out and get me the book. Or at the very least, have someone leak some more sample chapters. Because it's been a long time since that Arion sample chapter dropped. I need my fix. Or was the last sample chapter a Mercy chapter, Arya Stark? Or was it the Sansa controversial chapter? I can't remember, it's been so long, but why is it taking so long for him to finish one book? Martin has told us that he's almost done. He's about 3/4 of the way finished. All we have to do is hope the world is still standing by then. But I have 5 major reasons why I think it's taken Martin so long to finish The Winds of Winter. So for the first reason, I think he's talked so much about finishing it that in his brain, he thinks he's done. If you've read his Nada blog, if you watched him in interviews where he talks about The Winds of Winter, he talks like he's already done. He says things like fans are going to read the book and they're going to have a big debate, a huge debate over whether or not my ending was better than the Game of Thrones ending. A huge debate over which version is the superior version. You know, after Game of Thrones ended and there was that huge backlash, I would have said that there would be no debate. People would choose Martin's ending, no matter what that looked like. They would still choose that over Game of Thrones. But now, I don't know. It's been so long and people these days are very quick to turn on creators these days. All a fandom needs is a gentle push, and Martin can find himself in the same position as Dan and David. Especially after this long wait, it's very easy for that to happen. But the way he talks about The Winds of Winter, it's like the book is out and fans can have that debate. He's seeing all the online arguments in his head already. So psychologists, there's this study that says if you talk about something you want to do, if you talk about it too much, in your brain, it registers as if you already did it. Your brain has ways of rewarding you when you complete a task. And psychologists, they've studied this very real phenomenon where people talk too much about the thing they want to do. The psychologists, they find these people will lack the later motivation to actually complete that project. Because their brains have already rewarded them for completing it, even though all they did was talk about it. This is something I've heard about years ago, and it's why to this day, I don't talk about things I intend to do. This is why I don't do a lot of community posts about future projects for the channel. I'm afraid that if I talk about it too much, if I talk about it in advance, it's never going to get done. That thing I really want to do, it just won't happen. Your own brain can betray you. And that's one reason I think he's not done. He's talked so much about it, he's robbed himself of the motivation to finish it. You might have experienced this phenomenon yourself. If you're reading this series, you might be a fan of fantasy, and a lot of fantasy readers are fantasy writers. You might have a book idea in your head. I know I do. You might have talked about this book with your friends, talked about it online in writing communities and fantasy fandoms, and is that book done? I'm guessing no. So in the future, when you have projects, don't talk about it, be about it, just do it. At least complete the first draft before you start letting people know you have a book idea on your brain. And so for the second reason, this one's kind of obvious, he's not taking the time to write it. He's doing interviews here and there. He's going to this con event and that con event. He's choosing to work on all these spin-offs instead of working on the main series that birthed them. And not just that, I'm sure there are days when he's home and he has no other things on his agenda, no other pressing matters to attend to, and he's just not taking the time to write The Winds of Winter. Now don't get me wrong, I know that George R.R. Martin is not my bitch. He's a grown man and he can spend his free time however he wants. If he wants to do the same interviews over and over again, where he tells the same stories over and over again, do it. By all means, live your life. I'm just pointing out the obvious that he's not taking the time to write the book. I think, honestly, this is the biggest reason why the book is not done. He's just not writing it. He lacks the motivation, and also, number 3 on the list, he's not as interested in the series as he was when he first started. Martin has said he doesn't like to outline his stories. Martin has said if he knows exactly where a story is going, he's less inclined to want to write it. He's a gardener writer, not an architect. We all know the story by now. Architects have a blueprint, they have a plan for how they're going to build their story, and gardeners, they just plant seeds and go along. Whatever happens, happens. Whatever grows from those seeds, grows. He'll cultivate what plants he wants and prune the ones he doesn't. The thing is, that's fun in the beginning when you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books to go. It's much, much different when you're 2 books away from the finish line. He might not have an outline written down in front of him, but he has one in his head. He knows where the story is going. With only 2 books to go, there's less room for him to improvise. There's less room for him to be unpredictable. There's no real room for him to play around to see where the story is going. Because the only direction he's going in is towards the end. Roll credits. Wrap it up. This is a very bad time to introduce new characters, to introduce new conflicts. Now's the time for him to kill the current characters, to wrap up the current conflicts. And that's a whole less interesting than causing mischief and mayhem, as Martin loves to do. It's time to bring some sort of catharsis to the reader, and this is something Martin has always struggled to do. He can do setups really well, but his payoffs don't always hit the mark. Think back to the dramatic reveal of who hired the cat's paw. The person responsible for hiring the assassin who tried to kill Bran was Joffrey's so-called Baratheon. A reveal so disappointing, there are fans who think that it can't be Joffrey. It must have been someone else. There are so many alternative theories to the cat's paw reveal. There are fans out there holding out hope for a better story. To that I say, I hope you're not holding your breath because there will be no later reveal. It was Joffrey. That's it. The reveal of who actually killed Jon Arryn was much better, but still, it was 2 books later. Readers were off that mystery by then. Martin loves drawing out these moments for as long as he can, building the tension, stretching it across multiple books, but when it comes time for the payoff, for the climax, it's disappointing. It kind of starts with, will Bran ever reveal who pushed him from the tower? And that really doesn't go anywhere. Bran's testimony is never needed. And then we have things like, will Gendry ever learn he's Robert Baratheon's bastard son? Brienne is just this close to telling him, but she doesn't. There are other moments like this, both big and small, scattered across all the novels, where tension is stretched for as long as possible, and you're wondering, when is the climax going to come? When is the payoff gonna get here? Will Dany ever learn from Sir Barristan the truth about her family? When it happens, is it going to matter? You know, it feels like Martin just doesn't want the reader to be satisfied in any capacity. That's kind of what's stopping him from finishing the novels. Or at least it's one of the many reasons why he's not done yet. And so for the fourth reason why I think he's not done, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because I know how weird people can get about this topic. He's an older man, much older than he was when he first started the series. He found worldwide fame at a much older age. I'm sure it's hard to get up and sit down at a computer for hours at that age and knock out 1,000 pages of a novel for a series that consumed most of his adult life. It's the same as getting up to do any sort of exercise when you're older. Exercising in your 30s is different than your 20s, the same for your 40s and your 50s. So I'm sure it's much different, much harder to write at his age. And that's all I'm going to say on that, which brings me to my last reason, number 5. The show surpassed him. This ties in with reason number 1. Not only does Martin talk like he's finished the series adaptation is done. I'm a firm believer that what we saw on the show is pretty much how the books are going to end. So if Martin thinks like he's done, if he's seen his story completed on the small screen, that has to rob him of some motivation. Now, I don't believe he's changing the ending of the books due to the backlash the show received. Martin is a very stubborn man and he does not care about our negative opinions in that way. Think about it. He wrote A Feast for Crows, a book that people criticize for being a book about nothing, a book where nothing happens. And what did he do? He went out and wrote an even bigger book about nothing, a book where nothing happens. He's talked about how his ending is kind of diverging away from the show, but it's not going to go too far. If you're holding out hope Dany's not going to destroy King's Landing, don't hold your breath. He's always talked about how his ending will be different than what the show gave us, even before season 8. But I think seeing the show done, being part of this massive worldwide phenomenon, and then watching it end and the world move on to other things, that's gotta take a toll. So those are my 5 reasons why I think we're still waiting on The Winds of Winter. So how can we get the book faster? Is there any way to get the book sooner rather than later? I think what Martin can do is hire other writers to help him. Tell them what he wants for each POV chapter and have them write it. And then he goes over it, he gives it the Martin touch, add in some words or wind, some nipples on a breastplate and a few nuncles, and he's closer to being done. Don't hire Elio or Linda, they are way too close to the series as super fans. And then there's the fact that Linda is... yikes. We won't talk about that right now, though. Maybe the guys that worked on The Expanse. But Martin will never do that because he's stubborn. he's stubborn, and he said only he can torture his characters, no one else. With such a long wait for The Winds of Winter, people are wondering, will we ever get A Dream of Spring? To that, I'll say this. No. Thank you all for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below what you think about the long wait for The Winds of Winter. Do you think we're going to get A Dream of Spring, More Dunk and Egg, Fire and Blood Part 2? Let me know. Patreon and channel memberships only go for $1 at the lowest tier. And again, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And oh yeah, as for those rumors that the book is secretly done, people trading screenshots, emails that the book is actually done. I don't care about this rumor. I don't care if the book is somewhere being edited right now. All I care about is getting my hands on the book. All I want, all I've been waiting for is the book. Give me the book.
That's all.